Okay, with those technical issues behind us, let's start the webinar. Once again, welcome and thank you for attending today's webinar on tapping the hidden job market. We know this is a very challenging time for a job search, so it's so important to think past posting your resume on a large job board and then waiting and hoping to get a call for an interview. Our presenter, Nicole Skalski, a Walden Career Services advisor, is going to illustrate a number of strategies to take your job search to the next level. Nicole is an expert in the areas of job search strategies, networking, and professional branding. Hi, Nicole.
Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us.
We are also very fortunate to have Janice Hawkins with us. Janice is a Walden doctoral student in the PhD in Public Policy and Administration program. Janice will share some strategies that work for her in her own career development and job search. Welcome, Janice.
Thank you so much for your welcome. Hello, everyone.
And Nicole, I'm going to turn the webinar over to you.
Thank you, Denise. So before we get started, everyone, I would actually like to engage our audience and get some feedback from you all by asking you a poll question about your job search methods. So we'll get that poll launched in a few seconds. And the question is, which of the following best describes your primary job search method? Do you prefer to apply for jobs online or by posting your resume online, answering newspaper ads, mailing out your resume to employers via snail mail or the United States Postal Service, or asking family, friends, or professionals in your network for job leads, or maybe some other method? So take a few seconds to share with us your best strategies. And then we will take a look at the results. And hopefully, based on some of your feedback, we will be answering some of those questions in today's webinars and focusing on why different job search strategies in this difficult market might be better than others. How are the results looking, Denise?
Well, let's see. Let's close the poll. And let's see here. We have 78% said applying online via job boards and by posting your resume. 1% answering newspaper ads, which is not surprising. And then 6% said mailing out resumes to employers. 12% asking family, friends, or professionals in your network. And 3% indicated another method. So again, it was 78% said applying online via job boards and by posting your resume. So it looks like we'll have a lot of great ideas here to share.
Thank you so much, Denise. Okay, so that tells us, your answers really help us a lot by telling us we're definitely on the right track for deciding to do today's webinar, Tapping into the Hidden Job Market. And we'll be finding out why so many people actually are using the online job search, but maybe gaining some insight as to why the online job search might not always be the most effective way to spend your time with your job search. So that kind of gives us a new reality check here. And the new reality check, as we all know in these difficult economic times, high unemployment, a lot of changes going on in the workplace with technology and the economy. We are looking at a 50-year work life. This is part of our new reality. The new reality also says we might be experiencing economic recessions every 7 to 10 years. The average job change will be every 4 years. So in a 50-year work span, that will be 12 or more job changes. We're most likely to have 3 or more distinct careers. Many of why you all are here studying your degree at Walden, I would bet that more than 90% of you is because you're interested in improving your skills to move up in your career or make some type of career change. So we will be changing jobs. That's inevitable and not necessarily by choice, as most of us know. And so today we're going to answer the question, what does really this new reality, this new economy, new labor market mean for you and your job search? Well, it means, first of all, that we have to be creative, we have to be more proactive and use a strategic approach. We cannot keep using the old strategies in a new market. And I'm going to repeat that again. We cannot keep using the same strategies in a new market. Okay? The market is changing every day, and we need to adapt our strategies, diversify them to be more effective. So if your current strategy, most of you answering the online job search, if it's not getting you results, we need to change the strategy. You will need to change your strategy, not to give it up altogether, but maybe diversify. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how to diversify those strategies, and based on some research that's been done by some of our career gurus out in the world, what strategies might be working better than others. So the online monster job search equals frustration. Do you really feel like the online job search is weighing on you with little or no results? Why is the internet search the leading job search method when it really leads to so much frustration? Why do we spend so much time searching for jobs on the internet in a way that leads us to frustration and sometimes disappointment? It's many times a slow process, and I'm not referring to the internet being slow, I'm referring to the response, posting a resume and waiting for employers to get back, or applying for jobs online and not getting few or no responses for interviews. So it's slow, it's unproductive, and frustrated. Actually, for both the employer, research shows that it's frustrating for both the employer and the applicant. So again, answering the question, why do we use this approach? And to give us some insight into why the internet job search might not be the most productive strategy, we're going to take a look through the employer's lens to find out how employers and hiring managers actually their preferred hiring method. So we know there must be a better, more effective way to our job search. And let's take a look through the employer's lens. And this information actually comes from, I was mentioning our career, he's an international career guru and wrote the book, What Color Is Your Parachute, that has been published in many languages all over the world. And he now has put out recently the Job Hunter Survival Guide. And in this guide, he outlines an upside-down pyramid and looks through the lens of the employer to see where job seekers, where we're going wrong with the internet search. So what happens to our job search when we rely solely on job postings, advertised job postings on the internet? Well, we're really missing out on the most important steps of the process, steps 1 through 4. So let's take a look at those steps. Starting at the top, this is the preferred method of how employers would like to hire. Of course, they would like to hire within the organization, within their department or organization. So they look inside first. It costs employers less money, it's less stressful, less training, and less investment. If they cannot find anyone with the qualifications inside the department or organization, well, they may pass the word along to staff or peers inside the organization in other departments. Extend their search internally a little bit more. If that doesn't work, then they extend their search to their professional network and maybe reaching out to friends or other professionals in professional associations that are with them, posting it on listservs. If they still can't find qualified candidates that way, then Human Resources Department will go ahead and post the job on the company or organizational website for both internal and external applicants. And last but not least, if they still can't get qualified candidates, then they go to search outside the organization. And this would be via an advertised job posting on commercial job banks. So what does this mean? These are the commercial job banks, such as Monster, such as Career Builder, that we are using. 78% of you mentioned today for our job search, online advertised positions. So the first 4 steps, just to reiterate, are the preferred method of the employer, but it's the complete opposite way that most job seekers are using. So the key here is to get in front of the employer or HR manager or hiring manager before they get to that step number 5. This is the hidden job market. The steps in the process that are not really obvious or apparent to the job seeker. This is the non-advertised part of the process, a step which many employers may not even get to or even use, especially smaller employers. I'm referring to the advertised. So they might not get to step number 5, where they actually have to reach out and go online and advertise their position. It's the last option for them. So the conclusion here is you want to be in contact with the employer, the hiring manager, or someone in their network before they get to step 5. So now that we understand the hiring process, what does this tell us about the way we should be looking for jobs? Again, this is what the hidden job market is all about. Janice, would you like to share how you got your current position? What the position is? Again, we have Janice on the call, who is a Walden doctoral student, and we've worked with Janice here in Career Services to reposition and rebrand herself. And she was also with us on the first presentation, and we are very happy to have her to outline some of the steps she used to get into her current position. Janice?
Okay, hi. I work for city government in child welfare. I've been there since 1985. My position, my civil service title is supervisor 2. What happened was there were opportunities to do different kinds of things with no functional promotion, but the opportunity to show what you could do. So some 7 years ago, one of the managers quit, retired, and she was the staff development coordinator. That was a position where we make sure that the different staff members get the appropriate training for their particular title. And each borough in New York has one. So she quit, and I asked for it. And they said no, they didn't think along with my other duties, because I was juggling, doing a number of different things, that I could do that. Kind of frustrated, because I had been there a long time, and a lot of my peers had gone on to become deputies and directors and managers, and I was still there. I went to Career Services, and I carried on for, I think, maybe an hour and a half. Lisa Cook just listened to me, and she talked to me about rebranding yourself in place, which I understood to be, let's look at what you do and look at it another way. Let's market it another way. So what happened was, as they went, different people changed. Someone else became a staff development coordinator, and I just said I would help them. So I helped them do things, and when there were special projects on, I would ask and help do other projects. I would help different departments with what they were doing. No one wanted to go out and talk to the public schools, because child welfare is the kind of thing that people have very intense emotion about. So most people don't want to actually talk to the public, because it's really very, it can get very intense. But I didn't mind, and I would go out. I'd volunteer to go out on holidays and so on to talk with the teachers and so on, to answer their questions. And so that at one point they came to me and said, this person is not working out. We need you to become a staff development coordinator. Now, previously the job just meant that central office sent us down a list of the trainings that are available in any month, and then we just said we just signed people up for the same trainings. So I tried to look at it and open it up and say, okay, there are a lot of there are 140 things available in a month, and we're only using 20 of them. What about let's do all of these? Let's just put them out there, see what people are interested in. And I started also asking caseworkers rather than their deputies, what would you like to learn about? How would you like to do this as part of you advancing your career? Because one of our big problems in child welfare is the attrition rate is something like 40%. So all of that began to just reframing the job in a way that made it interesting and also expanded the stage, if you will, to be able to show what I can do, so that perhaps when the next thing comes up, I'll be able to make that jump. So it's really about keeping an open mind, looking around, letting people know what you can do, and not being so. Sometimes people are like, if they don't pay me, I'm not going to do it. If they don't give me the promotion, I'm not helping anybody. Well, that doesn't work. In real life, you need to volunteer your time. If they don't accept it, take it outside. I started doing conferences and workshops on things I was interested in talking about. And unbeknownst to me, a lot of the higher-ups in my job were attending these conferences and not identifying themselves as such, so that when I wanted this position, suddenly everything came together and I could have it. So it was really about the whole rebranding and looking in unexpected places and being a really good coworker and helping other people and helping and showing what you can do.
Excellent. Thank you, Janice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's an amazing story that Janice has about really internally and reaching out and being generous. So this is definitely not for the passive person, someone who wants to be proactive, and really that's what the new reality is today. You really have to step outside of the box and be willing to extend yourself. And you'd be surprised how she said there was her peers and her directors actually viewing her at her presentations. So that's all a part about discovering the hidden job market, really the non-advertised jobs. She rebranded herself within, and instead of first they were telling her that she was not qualified for the position, and then she rebranded herself and exposed herself so that they came looking for her to fill the position. So 80 to 85% of all positions are filled through either employee recommendations, referrals from trusted associates or recruiters, and direct contact with the candidate. And when we think about it, if we want to hire an electrician or a plumber or get a referral for a hotel if we're going out of the country, who do we ask? We ask our friends, our colleagues for recommendations. So, it's just common sense that we would prefer to go to a trusted source and get a recommendation from real people than hiring maybe a stranger from a piece of paper online. So this is what the hidden job market is all about. And if you notice, also on the online job boards, it's usually large employers that advertise on those commercial job boards. So we're really missing out on the small and medium-sized employers, which is where most of or much of the growth is today as far as jobs. We're going to look at how to uncover some of these employers. So if 80 to 85% of all jobs are not advertised, then we're really limiting ourselves to the advertised positions. Only 20%. So we're really missing out on a huge percentage. Which brings me to show me the numbers. According to Richard Bowles, again, in his book, The Job Hunter's Survival Guide, the least effective way to conduct your job search is by using the internet to seek out job postings or to post one's own resume to be discovered by, he estimates, some 40+ million resumes floating around in cyberspace. So this is really overwhelming and frustrating to both employers and recruiters, who ironically, as we saw through the pyramid, the 5-step search process, ironically, we're searching for each other in almost exactly the opposite ways. So why do the majority of job seekers use the internet approach? Of course, because we can do it from the comfort of our own home. It's easy. It requires little effort. It's readily available. The internet technology is a tool that we have at our immediate disposal. And since a job posting is in the form of an advertisement, we are really feel invited to apply. And this really makes sense, right? Well, sure. And don't get me wrong, this is not to say that you should not use this method at all, of course. It's just not the most effective way to use 100% of your time. So as we can see on the PowerPoint screen here, the internet, and this is proven by research, is really the 1 to 10% solution. And the hidden job market, which is option number 2, and that involves doing a little bit deeper detective work and using some of your Walden research skills to dig a little bit deeper, using your network, as in the case of Janice, and this is the 86% solution. Research studies show that option number 2 is the most effective job search method. And if you'll notice, this method matches the way a typical employer prefers to fill a vacancy, through their network, through a recommendation, or through a referral. However, the reason why most job seekers do not use this method is because it does require more work. It requires time, effort, dedication, and more thinking. So this is definitely not for someone who wants to be passive. So like in Janice's case, she gave perfect examples of rebranding herself internally, reaching out, volunteering her time to work on projects, committees. So she was getting a lot of exposure for her skills and what she could do and the possibilities and her potential both internally and externally through conference presentations. And it really paid off. It worked. So also another point here is the effectiveness rate for each approach is directly proportional to how much time and effort it requires of you. So if the internet search is the 10% solution, then we more or less want to dedicate 1 to 10% of our time to the internet search. If the hidden job market approach, getting out of the house, talking to people, attending professional conferences, your Walden residencies at the PhD level, doing some research at your local library, talking to your network. You want to spend 80 to 85% of your time on option number 2. And of course this brings me to, so what works best? A little bit of everything. Not to say you should put all your eggs in one basket and focus only on the network, only on research, or only on the internet. Really you want to diversify your strategies and not overdo it either. So use, and this is from Bowles' book, Bowles suggests using up to 4 different strategies, but networking should definitely be the constant for all of your strategies across the board. So speaking of job search strategy diversification, I would like to share a very recent Walden student success story with you. And this is a DBA student who is in the last leg of his program, and this just happened about a month ago. And just this week shared his job search success story with Career Services here at Walden. Last year, he contacted Career Services, and we helped him put together a federal government resume. That was his goal he was seeking out a federal job. We referred him to one of our archive webinars on the website, Navigating the Federal Hiring Process. And he was actually called for an interview after he put together his resume and worked with Career Services, took the advice from the webinar, but he did not get the job, but he did make progress getting interviews. He continued to work with Career Services on his resume, his job search, and networking. And while he was just offered, it turns out, a position with the U.S. Department of Education, and he just started his job about 2 weeks ago. So I think the point here is to diversify your strategies. Always talk to people and get advice. Talking to your professors, other Walden colleagues, joining the Walden University LinkedIn group, professional associations, people in your community, and keep trying different strategies until you really find out what works. So I think this is a really nice story to hear from a Walden student in such a very, very difficult market. And that brings us to the next slide, which I really want to emphasize as Bowles mentioned in his book, that networking should be the center of your career management universe, your job search universe. Networking is really key. It really leads to jobs, period. So networking is the center of your job search, no matter what your profession. And networking, given the difficult market and our new market reality, we need to be constantly building our network, and you need to be constantly asking yourself, what can I do to be better connected with my local profession? What can I do to get to know and be known by my peers? Janice gave some excellent examples. What can I do to become more visible in my professional community? Who can I talk to? My research that I'm conducting at Walden, and the books that I'm reading, who might be interested in those topics? Where can I do a conference presentation? Write an article, even if it's at the local level. Serve on a board. What can I do to establish rapport with all of these people so that they can help me? So those of you who get scared by the term networking, it's really just plain and simple talking to people. We do it every day. So if you don't have your network built up already, you want to ask yourself some of these questions about how you can get more connected to your peers, your local profession, and get some more exposure for yourself. And networking is really the key to the hidden job market. It's using your contacts to connect with the employer's contacts, and then asking yourself, as exemplified in the visual on the slide, where do they overlap? So this method is based on, as we recall from the previous slides, referrals, recommendations, which are based on trust. So remember, the preferred way to fill a vacancy and saves the employer time and money and frustration is through a network referral and recommendations. But you may be asking, how do I go about this and how do I get started with finding employers? So that's what we're going to talk about next. And with that, we're going to take a slight break here. And Denise, if I could
Okay,
ask you
let's
to
hit the next
launch
poll.
poll number 2.
Okay.
And here
Here
we're
we
going to tap into
go.
your, speaking of tapping into the hidden job market, we're going to tap into your feedback and find out how much time per month do you spend on networking, now that we're realizing how important networking is, talking to people. So how much time do you spend? And we'll need a few seconds to get that poll up.
Okay, the poll is up.
So do you spend the equivalent of approximately 1 work day per month, an 8 or 9 hour day, on your networking? 2 or 3 work days or more? That's pretty much how you want to look at it. Your 8-hour day, 10 to 20 hour, 2 days a month, or 20 or more hours.
Okay, it looks like everyone's still filling in the poll here, so we'll give a few more seconds. Okay, I think we're ready. We'll close the poll. And Nicole, it looks like 74% said 1 to 9 hours per month. 21% said 10 to 19 hours per month. And 5% said 20 plus hours per month spent networking.
Excellent. Thank you, Denise. Appreciate it. Okay, so it looks like most of us do need to beef up our networking and the time we spend networking. So looking at this next slide, hopefully, if I were to ask you the poll again a few slides later, your answers would be different. So networking is the art of building and maintaining mutually beneficial relationships. And I definitely want to stress the word mutually. These relationships need to be reciprocal, and Janice gave some very good situations that she used to network herself and rebrand herself internally and externally of her employer, outside and inside the employer. So most of us really network every day, believe it or not. It's really just, again, talking to people. We chat with fellow commuters and coworkers on the bus, on the train. We make phone calls. We email suppliers and customers and clients. We update our LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter status. We go to work and community meetings. Those of us who have children, we go to the parent-teacher conferences, talk to other parents, and events in our community. We take classes. You all speak to your professors and Walden colleagues, participate in recreational activities, and the list goes on and on. I mean, we meet with friends and family and colleagues for drinks or dinner after work. Most of us do not think of this as networking, but it really is. It really is. So you can relax, and hopefully most of you now, if you were to take that poll again, you would answer definitely 20+ hours or more per week you spend networking. So networking, again, is getting out and talking to people and really sharing and paying it forward, which means being generous and giving back and volunteering your time. Your network will be the most important source of information for the hidden job market. And I will say that again. Your network will be the most important source of information for the hidden job market. And notice I mentioned hidden job market and information. Networking definitely leads to jobs. So Janice, again, would you mind sharing with us what kind of networking strategies did you find most helpful that helped you lead you into your current position?
Well, it's really about being visible. I joined some of the organizations, ASPA, American Society for Professional Administrators, I think, and National Association of Social Workers, and so on, so that when they had conferences, I would put in for things that I was interested in talking about. On AOL, they have a thing with the communities now. I live in Bedford-Stuyvesant, so they have the Bed-Stuy patch, and it's really talks about different things in the community, and I volunteered to be one of the contributors on issues of family and children, because that's what I work as. At my church, I also volunteered to do research and development when we moved to a new neighborhood, to use some of my researching skills to find out basic information about the neighborhood and, you know, the demographic mix and so on, because each thing that you do the skill can be transferred to something else. My mom used to have an expression. She said, what's in your head nobody can take from you. So sometimes when you volunteer somewhere, you learn a skill that you can then transfer somewhere else. And that helped in that I was bringing different kinds of information to my director, who is also the person my director in the last 5 years, who's also now my immediate supervisor. So I was bringing new ideas, and one of the things I'm going to have to develop is a parenting skills seminar based on for ethnically diverse families, which is something that we don't have here, and see what happens with it. And sometimes you get the ideas and you do them, and then someone takes them over, and then they put flowers on it, and it becomes their idea. But people really know that it was you, and then you get called on to do different things, and the opportunities open both. And something Lisa told me is not only look inside the box, but look outside the box, because everybody is attached to somebody or another situation, another place, so that when you network outside of the box, those people then may know people in your organization, and you have a greater arena to show what you can do. And be open to if you have to learn new things, if you have to humble yourself and ask somebody you don't like how to do something, or offer to help them, because it's really about the long-term plan.
Excellent. Thank you, Janice.
Mm-hmm.
Great example. So contributing in a local newspaper, in your community, collaborating in a professional association. We often recommend to people who are without a job and focusing on their degree, really get out there and volunteer. You know, what are the different roles that you could take on in your community? Where are your strengths and your passions? So Janice's passion, obviously, and her expertise is child welfare. So that's what she can speak about. That's what she can share with other parents, people in her community, her church, etc. And you really get so much exposure, and when you pay it forward, it really will come back to you in other ways. That's the way it works with the network. So focus on your key selling points, your strengths, your area of expertise. You want to also combine the face-to-face networking and online social networking, and we highly recommend LinkedIn and joining the Walden LinkedIn group. Combine personal and professional networking. They both work, and always strive to add new and relevant contacts. And that brings us to the next slide, which really identifies some creative ways that you might have areas of expertise where you can pay it forward within your network. And this is from Keith Ferrazzi's book, Who's Got Your Back? So he identifies some key areas here in ways we can use to be generous to others. Because really, to make your network work for you, as Janice mentioned, you really need to show your value first and establish that trust and credibility and be generous and give back. So he calls that your personal currency. What personal currency or value do you have to share with others? Is it helping them with their financial success, their career growth, their physical wellness, giving back to your community, intellectual stimulation, spirituality? If we look at all of these areas, in my case as a career advisor, well, I would be able to help people and contribute and be generous and help them with their career growth and professional development. So we can all choose one of these key areas to give back and be generous to others. And this is really the best way to launch new relationships and establish that trust and credibility. You need to share your knowledge and expertise, and then your network will give back to you as well. Relationships, just like anything else, are reciprocal. They take time. It's a process, and they take time to build, just like your job search. Okay, so now that we've discussed networking, really the key importance of networking, both inside and outside of your organization, and ways that you can provide and show value and give back to your network, we're going to move on to putting some of your Walden research skills to practice. So we talked about the importance of network, and we'll get into the research component of how to dig deeper beyond the job postings on the internet to research potential employers. And before we get into the actual research, first you want to have identified some of these key points. You want to really have a clearly defined job target. So the more specific you can be about your job target, the more your network will be able to help you, and so will your research. It'll be more focused. Just like when you're working on a research paper or your dissertation, a clearly defined topic will lead to a more successful research project or paper. So the goal here is to compile maybe a list of 10 to 20 potential employers, and then within that list find the names of 1 or 2 key people within each company, and then connect with these contacts. So in this last portion of the webinar, that's what we're going to get into. Some specific resources where you can dig deeper to locate potential employers, and not just the large ones. Remember, we talked about the small and the medium-sized ones that we're kind of missing out on. And then how to cross-check that with your network and find out if you have any leads or referrals, or at least get a contact name, even if it's a cold contact, but a real name of a real person that you can reach out to and get your resume in front of. So starting with the first goal is to have that clearly defined job target. So your job target definitely, again, wants to focus on what you have to offer, your key skill set, your areas of strength, your areas of expertise, your passion. It engages your strongest skill sets. It's specific to 1 or 2 industries, and of course can be found in your desired place to live geographically. Although I do want to mention, and this is an advantage of us who are working at online universities and study online, the telecommuting options are really starting to explode. So the options from working from home are definitely growing exponentially by the day. So if you want to contact Career Services and are interested in those type of jobs, we can help you with that as well. So targeting employers, what to consider. You know, who hires people with your skill set? What industries might be a best match for you and your strengths? What about the employer culture, values, and reputation? Now that's something that you might be able to tap into your network if you know someone who works at a target employer, that you could find out like the insider scoop about what the company culture is like. What employers, again, are in your desired geographical area, and who is already in your network? So some of these strategies for identifying employers start with maybe the more than obvious. I mean, when we want to find a plumber or electrician, well, we go to the yellow pages. So there's super pages or decks online where we can really dig deeper to find by keyword some smaller or medium-sized growth industries or companies in our area. Going to your public library and talking to a reference librarian to dig deeper and find companies. Really, librarians, of course, are expert researchers and many times have large databases available and can uncover employers in sources that we have never thought of. Looking into your local business journals, on our Career Center website, we have a link to business journals across the country where you can just click on your city, your local or state chamber of commerce. And then also on our website, we have the Job Hunters Employer Directory by state. And you can look also on Job Hunt, that's jobhunt.org, and we have a resource list at the end of this PowerPoint that you'll be able to access on the Walden website. They have the top company lists and rankings. So we've all heard of like the top 100 fastest growing companies, Inc. magazines, Forbes magazine, Fortune magazine. So those top lists and rankings, and those can be by entrepreneurial growth companies, smaller companies as well. You'll want to look at those lists, and you can many times sort them by location. But today what we're going to look at is careeronestop.org, which is actually a website through the Department of Labor. And this is what the website looks like. So we're going to take a little bit deeper look of how to navigate it specifically for uncovering employers. So as you can see from the picture of the home page, there are many other resources that can help you with this job search. It's really an excellent resource, again, through the U.S. Department of Labor. So we're going to see, if you look at the red balloon there, where it says job search. So get tips on planning a successful job search, applying for jobs, and negotiating offers. So we're going to start with the job search, and then here where I have highlighted in blue under planning, find potential employers. So that's where we want to go next. Job search and find potential employers, and we'll want to go to the employer locator. So here again, we're talking about research, which is a critical part of the job search process. You know, it can really help you to identify some companies that may be even hiring in your field. It can get your job search focused on employers that values and their company culture meets your expectations, and help you prepare yourself also and be more informed when you go into the interview. So you want to use the Career One Stop's employer locator. And this is what the employer locator looks like. And I have the website here at the bottom of the slide, careerinfonet.org, and it's also on the resource list at the end of the presentation. So you can search jobs here by industry, by occupation, by location, and by a keyword search. It's really fabulous. So I did a search here, and you can see my search criteria at the top. I picked the state of Minnesota, and specifically the Twin Cities area. And I looked for the industry sector of healthcare and social assistance, and then looked for the subsector of nursing and residential care facilities. So I came up with 66 employers in this area, specifically for that search. So that's really amazing. So taking that to the next step, you would click on these employers, get a little profile of them, go into their website, see if you can find a contact, and then guess what? Cross-check it with your network by using a LinkedIn company search. So let's go back. Let's say that I pick the Apple Tree Village. Then I could do a search under company at the right-hand side of my LinkedIn profile here for that particular organization, and it'll show me which employees at that organization are in my network and are on LinkedIn, and I could possibly get names of people to reach out to, find if I have a second or third degree connection, so someone in my network could maybe introduce me, or I could get a referral. So that's why you really want to be strategic with this approach. Do your research, cross-check it with your network, use online social media to also look for employers and look for jobs and find out really who's in your network. Okay, and last but not least, we're going to talk a little bit. So let's say you identify a company, you find some contacts there, you have someone, maybe a second degree contact that could introduce you to someone at a potential target company that you would like to apply at for a job. This is some advice on how to approach your network. So you definitely always want to ask for information and advice. Never want to come out and ask for a job. Always asking for information. Everyone you talk to will give you some piece of valuable information or advice or lead, 9 times out of 10. And if you ask someone for a job, you're really putting someone in an uncomfortable position, and people don't like to be in uncomfortable positions. So it's easy to instead to ask them for information and advice about their experience, their career path, and people really enjoy giving advice. So that's really the approach to take. And you definitely want to be specific about your career goal. So if you're interested in green jobs, if you just say green jobs, that's too general. You want to be more specific. Green jobs in a certain type of industry, a certain type of green job, in a certain type of location. Also asking open-ended questions instead of yes-no questions, because that'll lead you to a conversation and you'll get more answers and more information that way. Really assume each of your contacts, no matter who they are, has a valuable piece of information to offer, because they really do. And focus on people with information, not power. So it's not necessary to get to people who are high positions, because those people are really harder to reach and not as realistic. Really talk to anyone. Everyone has information and advice to get, and you will find out that eventually that will lead you to the person of power who's in the position to hire you. And of course, last but not least, avoid sending a resume when networking, except of course when they ask you to do so. So really remember that people do want to help you and they're willing to provide you with information. So to round it up, excuse me, the new labor market really requires a new approach. View your job search through the employer's lens, not a blind search. Keep networking the center of your universe and network at all times, and keep building your network. And technology these days really makes that easy to do. Use your detective skills to uncover hidden employers using the resources that we've identified in this webinar. Use your direct research, and your network will lead you definitely to the hidden job market. And with that, for those of you who are not familiar with the Career Services website and what we do, we have plenty of resources on our website about assessments and researching those job boards. Many of the resources that I mentioned today are under the Research tab on our website. You can find them there. We have resume samples, networking tips. We can prep you for an interview. You can view our Career Services blog, where we are highlighting student success stories and uncovering unique websites. And then, of course, our career webinars, where we will be recording and archiving all of our career webinars. So definitely take advantage of the resources on our website. And also, of course, through your My Walden portal, feel free to schedule a one-on-one appointment with an advisor, and we'll be happy to focus on your individual needs and help you with your career. search. So with that, I would like to open it up for questions. We can take a few questions. I know we had a lot of demand for today's webinar. So if we can't get your questions answered today, feel free to contact Career Services again and schedule an appointment, and we'll be happy to work with you. And you'll want to remember that the webinar will be archived on our website. So Denise, how are we looking for questions?
Okay, we do have a number of questions and comments. The first one, the problem I have in tapping the hidden job market is that once I find the job online and research the job to track down the actual hiring manager, I am told to submit my resume online instead of sending it in via fax or email. Thus, I'm lost in the shuffle again. Any comments?
Sure, that's a very good point, and that does happen a lot. So what you want to do is, of course, you want to follow the HR protocol, and many times that is required, especially, for example, like government jobs. I mean, we have to apply online. That's part of the process, and that's part of going through HR. But we always want to remember HR is one department, and then the hiring manager is most likely in another department. So we want to think of HR as the gatekeepers. So hopefully, let's say you're looking for a position in the marketing department. You want to look on LinkedIn and look on the website and hopefully uncover someone who is in a position maybe 2 or 3 levels above the position that you're targeting, and also get your resume in front of that person, whether it's through direct email or maybe even just through the regular snail mail. Everyone's using email these days, so you could maybe really stand out and your letter would get there in a few days. So you do want to follow the HR protocol, but you also want to go around HR if you can and get to a direct hiring manager. And then maybe you can reach out to someone in the organization who's not in HR and get the inside scoop through an informational interview. So we mentioned reaching out to some contacts and not asking directly for a job, but just asking for advice. You know, would you mind, and you could do that on LinkedIn, would you mind speaking with me for 5 or 10 minutes over the phone, and so I can find out more about your organization. And that would be the way to go.
Okay, and what are some of the questions you should ask the librarian?
Oh, okay, excellent. So I would say number 1, if we look back at my recommendations, you want to have a very clear job target. Very clear. Because the clearer you are with your job target, knowing what type of job you want, in what type of industries, maybe narrowing it down to 1 or 2, and in what specific location, the more the librarian will be able to help you. And also talk to people before you go to the reference librarian, because many times they'll have ideas. Many times we talk to students, they tell us, oh, this is my goal, and we think, okay, what are your skills? What are your passions? We ask the right questions. What are your transferable skills? And then we come up with ideas of other companies or other industries where this person could work. We just had a webinar recently on alternative, career alternatives, for teachers. Teachers and education was secure until lately. Now K through 12 teachers are becoming more and more laid off, so they're looking for other opportunities. So where can we take these skills and apply them to other industries? So starting with the librarian having a clear job target, clear 1 or 2 industries on where you want to focus, and she or he might have other ideas of where you could apply your skills and what types of companies are growing and that you could work for.
Okay, and another question, how important is LinkedIn for finding employers?
Excellent question. Well, over here in Walden Career Services, we are huge fans of LinkedIn, and we highly recommend it, especially being online students. So it's very important. So many times you want to definitely dig deeper on LinkedIn, and you always want to cross-check and combine your strategy. So for example, not just use LinkedIn as your online bio, but also connect with individuals, join groups, as we mentioned today, be generous and pay back, participate in discussion forums, connect with professional groups, professional association groups, alumni groups, definitely the Walden group. And then you would be surprised how much information you get from these groups. You might find out about companies and places that you never heard of or organizations, and then you can use LinkedIn for your job search. And they're adding new tools all the time. So looking up companies on LinkedIn, in my opinion, is a fabulous way to find out who in your network works there and then people to reach out to. So like Janice mentioned, you'd be surprised. Someone you know, imagine all of their network as well. A huge arena is the word she used of people. So just, knowing 50 people and all of those 50 people know another 50 people, your network is exponential. So really that's the power of LinkedIn.
Okay, and we have a couple of questions that are similar, and so I'll summarize with this one. What is a good way to get your foot in the door of a company you have where you have no experience in that particular field?
Okay, excellent. So with the difficult economy, it's becoming more and more popular to actually find temping or contracting work. In one of the ways also Bowles mentions in his book about the preferred method for employers in seeking out talent is showing proof. So that's the beauty also of using LinkedIn, where employers are also seeking out talent. LinkedIn you can also use as an online portfolio. You can add applications and showcase some of your work. Maybe a PowerPoint presentation, a brief synopsis of a presentation or an article you've written. And that way, you're giving, not just saying you have the skills, but you're showing proof of them. So maybe there's a project or volunteering or a contract work, and that's a great way to prove yourself and get your foot in the door. And then, like Janice did, you're getting exposure for yourself, and then you're more likely, if not to get hired, to get recommended or build your resume for somewhere else.
Okay, we have time for one more question. There is a question though, can you briefly explain the LinkedIn website? And for that question, we do have resources on the Career Services website under the networking tab, 10 networking tips. There are some short videos about LinkedIn, and then we also have an archived webinar on the use of LinkedIn for that question. And then, Nicole, we have one more. This will be our last question. If we are transitioning to a new career, should we put info on our resume from our former career path?
Sure. There what you want to do, and again, it depends on how drastic the career change is. But no matter how drastic, if it's a 180-degree change, no matter how drastic it is, we always gain transferable skills from previous employment. So if it's a really sharp career change, then you'd want to work with Career Services. You can schedule an appointment with us, and we'll help you to identify those transferable skills. So sometimes, if it's a completely different industry and job that you're targeting, then you want to de-emphasize a little bit maybe the workplaces and the job titles, but really emphasize the skills that you gain from those previous employers, which would be your transferable skills, and the skills and the projects you've worked on and the knowledge you've gained from your Walden degree. And then, of course, you'd want to build on that with suggestions like Janice shared with us, writing articles, getting involved in conferences and presentations, getting some exposure for yourself, working on projects, serving on committees, volunteering to get your foot in the door, and gaining the experience and building your resume and showing you have a passion for that new area of interest. And that will really help to sell yourself and build your network at the same time.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Thank you. A special thank you to Janice for being here with us, and thank you to everyone for joining us.
Thank you for your invitation, and thank you so much for letting me be a part of this.